Hey guys, we have a new design on the Union Teespring shop called New Skies. You can purchase this in a variety of different colors, and it can also be bought as a sticker as well. If you wish to purchase this design, a link will be down below in the description. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? My name is Prodigy, and welcome to yet another Kingdom Hearts video on the channel. Today, guys, we're going to be covering what I've been hyping up for quite a while, and we're going to be covering the past Ultimanias for the Kingdom Hearts series. Now, in previous videos, to kind of portray a point, or if it was related to a topic, I did go through the older Ultimanias and get references and little points that Nomura made to make that video make a little bit more sense, but I haven't went fully in depth and covered like everything in an interview from Tetsuya Nomura in older Ultimanias. And today I'm going to be starting that, and we're going to be starting with Kingdom Hearts 1's Ultimania. I did a poll on YouTube like a long time ago, and a lot of you guys said you wanted me to cover the Ultimanias from the beginning. Now, as you guys can probably imagine, the most interesting portions of the Ultimania interviews are the Tetsuya Nomura interviews. These interviews are the interviews that give you exclusive information about the game, exclusive information about how the project came to be. And then Nomura has another interview called Scenario Mysteries in every Ultimania, I believe, where he explains exclusive details about the story and how that came to be. So today we're going to be covering the main Nomura interview, and this part is about 4 parts. I don't think I'm going to separate into 4 videos, depends on how long each session kind of is. If you guys were here last year, or were here like I'd say during summer when I was covering the artwork from select Ultimanias, then you know we're just going to be reading off what Nomura has been saying in these interviews, and I'll give my thoughts as we go along. Now, keep in mind, just a disclaimer, these interviews are pretty old and was pretty hard to find these, so translations might be a little weird here and there, and if you notice any weirdness in the translations, then yeah, that's kind of the best some of us can do right now. But I'm gonna try my best for you guys to give you guys some exclusive information from these, and let's just dive right in. Around what time did planning for a Disney collaboration begin? The producer Hashimoto was speaking to a person from Disney. Coincidentally, I was in the same place talking to Mr. Sakaguchi, executive producer, about what kind of game to make. I want to make an action game with stylized characters. I remember vaguely thinking to myself at that time. I offered my hand and said, if that's the case, since I have an idea I want to do, please let me do this. The person from Disney was in on the idea and said, since it's stylized, it would be best if there are Disney characters that are known worldwide. It was a great opportunity, as if it was destined. This was your first time demonstrating your prowess as the role of a director. What was it like to try out directing? In the beginning, I didn't want to do it because I knew it was difficult. When I offered to do a Disney game, there was no team. It turned out I would be doing the planning myself and talk it over with Disney. You were a solo team in the beginning? I was a one-man team for a year. I began after Final Fantasy VIII. You were different from other directors because you had to give directions while drawing. Was it hard to hold 2 positions at the same time? I thought from the beginning that there would be places where I couldn't touch upon while I drew. In order to settle that, I made sure to gather excellent leaders. I believe that if I left the rest up to trustworthy people, then I don't have to spend time giving direction for the small, fine details. It was still tough while I drew pictures, but I think it worked out. Normally, when the drawing job becomes tough because of the schedule, it is the director's role to push the artist to get the job done and say, the drawings are not finished, but there were times when I myself would be late and troublesome situations arose. I would make subtle changes to change the schedule. Okay, so those are like some of the questions. This is a patch of the questions I read talking about how the game came into like development, and a little bit of Nomura talking about his job directing, because as you guys know, this was pretty much Nomura's first time directing like a video game. I actually think the only other game outside of the Kingdom Hearts series he's directed has actually been Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's kind of funny to think about that. But the common story that floats around is that the idea came up in an elevator while Hashimoto was in an elevator with a Disney like official, and they presented the idea there. It's funny that Nomura had the idea at the time just on a whim like that. I'm guessing he was always thinking about something super creative along those lines, and Disney giving them some of those iconic characters was just, it like they said, it was almost destined, which is a big thing in Kingdom Hearts actually, so I wonder if that's a reference to how the idea even came to be in the first place. The strong story plot plot point of destiny and fate and whatnot, I wonder if like all those things are inspired by how Kingdom Hearts came to be in the first place, something that only happened by chance. It's interesting that he was a solo team pretty much planning the project out, so I guess that makes sense why he had such a huge attachment to it, even though he was there when the idea initially like came to him. I always found it like super interesting that Nomura drew for the Kingdom Hearts series and still drew for a lot of the Final Fantasy games as well, even the ones currently releasing. It seems like he took a little bit of a step back from the artwork though. I mean, he still draws quite a lot. We still have some artwork for Kingdom Hearts 3, 7 Remake, and even some current like Square Enix games that are releasing now, but it definitely seems like he doesn't pump out as much artwork as he used to in the early 2000s, early 2010s, and so on. And I feel like a big reason for that, as I've kind of alluded to, is because he's been working on just such big projects. I mean, for the better part of last decade, he was working on Kingdom Hearts 3 along with Final Fantasy 7 Remake for probably the majority of the second half of that decade. So the man's been like pretty busy like pushing the new generation for Square Enix forward, and I've been thinking about making like a big video about that, how Nomura has been pushing Square Enix as a company quite a lot recently. And although some of his games get some backlash because he is a crazy thinker, he also makes games that are just super memorable that will stick with you forever, definitely, whether it's in the good way or the bad way. Is the finished product what you had in mind from the beginning? Yes, just what I thought and drew out. In terms of the game, which part did you spend the longest time on? I guess it would be what makes this game interesting. Even though lately hardware has evolved and the appearance looks more and more amazing, I felt that nothing was interesting at first glance, or felt fresh. I thought that if you were to compare the improvement of image quality, there wasn't enough of a feeling of newness or exhilaration. That is why I wanted to make a game that had various elements that were immediately interesting and enjoyable to play. If you were to think of the Disney games up till now, there were times when other people thought that you would not be granted permission. You were planning to do things such as creating worlds from multiple works and remaking a large number of characters completely in 3D. Was it difficult to negotiate? I heartily think this is impossible, so I'll quit. I think I'll just see what happens, and if it's no good, then I'll give up. Even though in the beginning people expressed their disapproval, I did it by thinking there was nothing that couldn't be persuaded. That is true, Kingdom Hearts doesn't necessarily have the most unique of art styles, at least until Kingdom Hearts 3 came along. It was very similar to other PS2 classics. However, what made Kingdom Hearts interesting, what made it unique, was its feel of gameplay, and like Nomura said, the various elements that were immediately interesting and enjoyable to play. Like, whoever thought we would have a Disney action RPG like Kingdom Hearts? Whoever thought we'd have Final Fantasy characters in a game like Kingdom Hearts, a Disney game like that? Like, who comes up with an idea to visit random Disney worlds and like swing at like giant blobs of enemies while also protecting life, protecting princesses? It sounds like just a crazy, chaotic, like nonsensical idea on paper, but when you form it, create it, and finish it, it becomes something really beautiful, really unique, that's really special to millions of people around the world. And that's how ideas just start in general. They always start off as an idea, but when you flesh it out a little bit more, the picture starts to become a little bit more clear. I also love Nomura's mindset. He hardly ever thinks this is impossible, so I'll quit. He doesn't have that like just immediate give up mentality. He's willing to try and try and try again. He believes people can be persuaded, and I'm sure he has to do that a lot even nowadays when it comes to putting certain Disney properties in Kingdom Hearts, and probably even when it comes to changing or evolving certain Final Fantasy titles, as I'm sure he dealt with a lot with 7 Remake. I think it went well if you were able to create a project where all the Disney princesses appear in the same place. At first, I wanted to put in a scene where all of the princesses would be captured in Hollow Bastion, and then each of their respective princesses will come and save them. That idea was rejected, but I was at least able to keep the part with the princesses. Did you choose which Disney worlds you wanted to put in? In the beginning, when I was working alone, I had a fair number of world choices in mind. If I were to add the original worlds, there were over 20. In the end, I spoke with the staff and cut a few here and there, and ended up with the number it is now. In what order did you choose them? Well, I guess the first priority is its popularity. I chose in the order of how well known it was. Then I chose by figuring out if there are characters that are fun to move around, and in terms of staging, if there were places that were interesting to be a part in. By the way, is there a reason why Disney's symbol character Mickey Mouse only appeared in one scene in the game? Actually, according to the contract, I was only able to have one cutscene with him somewhere in the game. I thought deeply about which cutscene to put him in. So it had that sort of limitation. If that is so, you really made an effective choice. You sure did. Disney gave me permission to put him in a role where he can be waving his hand from behind a town's crowd. However, I thought that if I were to do this, I would use him in a way that would give the greatest impact. I thought he has to be here and used him in that scene. Ooh, that was a lot of questions to take in. A lot of info to take in general. So almost over 20 worlds were in the game originally, and this is just for Kingdom Hearts 1. That's pretty crazy. It's really nice though to read that Nomura pretty much got most of his ideas like out there. He pretty much got as close as he could as possible to the princess scene that he wanted in Hollow Bastion, but I guess they didn't want too many of the princes like in those worlds to interfere in that like major plot, I guess. Originally, they were going to have the princes capture the princesses, so you would have had people like Aladdin coming to save Jasmine and whatnot, which I feel like would have been very interesting, actually. But I feel like the way Hollow Bastion like was in the main game, base game, and final mix was pretty legendary, and I still think to this day is probably one of the best original worlds in Kingdom Hearts, one of the best world sequences, story sequences in Kingdom Hearts like history. It was one of the main moments in the Kingdom Hearts series, the entirety of Hollow Bastion Part 1 and Part 2, that made me just fall in love with the series. And this is another part of Kingdom Hearts 1 that a lot of people are already aware of, the part that Mickey was only able to be in one scene. And I feel like this kind of is like an example of how great I feel like Nomura is at writing and making impactful scenes in almost any video game that he directs or has heavy influence in. He was only allowed to put Mickey in one scene, and he alluded to that scene throughout the entirety of Kingdom Hearts Run. Right from the beginning, they were talking about the king, you read his letter. Donald and Goofy were sent out to search for Sora because of King Mickey. And then Donald and Goofy finally see King Mickey when all hope is lost, or trying to close the door to darkness, or what they thought was Kingdom Hearts at the time. And you see Mickey come out and he's like, now Sora, let's close this door for good. And I remember crying as a kid during that scene, not gonna lie. I don't think I've ever cried seeing Mickey in my life, but Kingdom Hearts made me cry to see Mickey, because it was just such a emotional moment. You had Riku there, Kairi was there too after it all. It was just, that moment was just crazy looking back at it. And I cannot believe Square Enix like just did that. I'm very happy that Disney allowed Nomura to use Mickey in more scenes later on. I believe the reasoning for this, I don't know if they explained this later on in the Ultimania interview, but I know that the reason that Mickey wasn't allowed to be in more than one scene in Kingdom Hearts 1 was because another company or someone else like was using Mickey in a video game at the time, which is kind of weird how that works, that you can't be in like multiple video games. But I don't know how game development works. I'm just a consumer like you guys. But imagine if they weren't allowed to use Mickey after this scene. What if Disney just said no to using Mickey from there on out? I feel like the entire Kingdom Hearts series or presence of Kingdom Hearts might be like completely different. I feel like you would lose like a key foundation in what makes like Sora, Donald, and Goofy's relationship like realistic. What got them together in the first place. You would lose a lot of character development for Riku. There's just a lot of things that I feel like would be pretty different, even though Mickey isn't like the character who's on screen the most in the Kingdom Hearts series. He's still a character who is pretty important to the Kingdom Hearts universe overall, and I definitely feel like the whole like premise of the universe would just be kind of different without Mickey, without the Kingdom Key D. However though guys, that's going to do it for the first part of this Ultimania coverage for Kingdom Hearts 1. If you guys enjoyed this, please leave a comment down below telling me if you want more or not, if you enjoyed this, what your favorite thing you learned about this was, and tell me like just overall if you'd be interested if I cover like more of these things in the future. The KH2 Ultimania, Birth by Sleeps Recoded I think has one, and etc, etc. I'd be interested to hear like some of your thoughts. But until next time though guys, if you enjoyed, leave a like, share the video with a friend or a family member, and last but not least, if you have not already and want to become a part of the union, all you have to do is hit that red little subscribe button down below. My name is Prodigy, and I will talk to you guys soon. Peace out.